What's up, guys? Elfis here, and today we're going to be doing another HoN replay analysis. This one is going to be a bit different for two reasons. One, because this one is a replay of my own gameplay as opposed to one of yours, and we'll talk about why we're doing that in a sec. And two, because instead of a solo replay analysis, I'm going to be doing a duo replay analysis. For those of you who haven't been following the thread on the forums, Taddy Jangles and me have gone back and forth on a couple issues, and he has volunteered to come on and do some of these with me. He may not be here for all of them, but as many as we can do in theory. So go ahead and say hi.
Hello. Yeah, I'm Taddy Jangles, aka James, and yeah, I'm just messaged Elfis on the forums and said that I was up for doing some co-replay analysis. So obviously the game's starting now, so.
Okay, so real quick, do you want to just go ahead and say like your MMR and the roles you play and things of that nature?
Yeah, I'm mostly a suicide player. I also play second support and jungle. I'm 1600. Actually, at the moment, I've gone down to 1590. But yeah, I'm 1600 level player, generally speaking.
Alrighty. And for those of you who don't know, I play carry, hard carry, and jungler mostly, and a little bit of solo mid here and there. So we're going to go ahead and jump into the replay. In this one, the reason we're doing a replay of my gameplay as opposed to somebody else's is for two reasons. One, because the couple replays that I had lined up that somebody had sent me, they are kind of short and kind of stomps, so I didn't really want to do that. And but I will if nobody else submits other ones. I have no problem doing it. It's just I'd prefer to prioritize better gameplay to show. And the other reason is because in this one I play a near perfect Flint. It's not too often that you get like almost 100% flawless gameplay, and there will be some mistakes that I make, and I'll actually point them out. Mostly it's the creep score that I get in the first 4 minutes or so when Flint has really low attack damage. So we're going to go ahead and jump in. We're going to play it on normal speed because we're watching separate replays just at the same time, because there's no way to do it in the same replay as far as we know. So I'm going to go ahead and count down. You ready?
Yep.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, start.
Okay.
Alrighty, so now we'll see. I'm playing on the Hellborn team. In this game, I'm actually at 1565 MMR. And another thing I want to note real quick before we go into the game is that actually I was on a losing streak in this game. And for those of you who haven't been on a losing streak before, when you get on a losing streak after 4 or 5 games, usually you just kind of play whatever the hell you want and not for the team because you're kind of sick of trying to win the game and failing. So I pick Flint, who is one of my favorite heroes. For those of you who know, you'll notice also that we have pretty low MMR, like a big
I was
span.
about to mention that. Like, you got 1300 on your team.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It does get, when you get into the 1500s, and actually I think I played this game Friday or Saturday night at like 10 o'clock, you kind of get players who are all over the place, really. But we'll talk about team composition first, since that's the first thing. I'll go ahead and discuss the Hellborn teams if you want to do the Legions after that, and you can do comments. We can do comments back and forth.
Hang on a second, let me just plug in my headset, make sure I've got better sound quality.
Go for it. Alrighty, so Hellborn team composition. We have Thunderbringer, Flint Beastwood, Succubus, Deadwood, and Swiftblade. Now there's a couple things to note about the team composition. First of all, Flint Beastwood and Swiftblade, usually you wouldn't have those two on the same team. It's not it's not unrealistic, and it can still work. It's just not something you see often. You do see Swiftblade Succubus a lot. That's a pretty good combination if you're going to run support Succubus, although I like her in a different way, but that's fine. The other thing to note is that we have a Deadwood and a Thunderbringer, so 2 solo mid heroes. Little bit unusual. You don't see that as well. I shouldn't say that. The 1500s, you do see it a lot. You shouldn't see it. But,
Well, if you count Succubus.
Your mic volume is really low, by the way. Just FYI.
Okay.
But
is that better? Is that better now?
Much better. Perfect. All right. So, you want to go ahead and talk about the Legions team composition?
Yeah, we got Pyro, Draconis, Panda, Solstice, and Flux. I actually think if they lane it right, it's by far the better team composition to the Hellborn one.
I would definitely agree. What I imagine, and I actually know what we're going to see because the lanes are already starting up, but what I was hoping we would see was a solo mid Pyromancer, and then Draconis playing a support with a babysitter in the side lane. That's not the case. We're actually going to be seeing Draconis solo mid. Um,
Mhm.
I'm not a huge fan of that, actually. I kind of like Draconis in a side lane where you can get better
Yeah,
farm,
well,
but
I'm not a fan of it either, but after watching this replay, it does work out for them quite well, at
yeah,
least at the start.
the Deadwood, who's going mid, for those of you watching on the other side, the Deadwood who's going mid, first of all, looks
Gets
like he's,
crushed.
yeah, he does pretty terrible. Him and, for the most part, the team in general, I'm going to go ahead and just bring this out in the open because we're about to watch it. The team in general on the Hellborn team, pretty pitiful, like very, very bad. And the only reason we won this game, not to go ahead and, toot my own horn, but the only reason we end up winning this game, spoiler alert, we do win the game, is because I carry quite hard. My score at the end, I believe, is 16-2, and then X number of support or assists. That's
I,
when you have a Flint Beastwood doing that good. It's not impossible to lose the game, but pretty unlikely to lose the game.
yeah. Actually, I do. After watching the replay, I do attribute a fair amount of it to Succubus. She actually does really well. She's definitely keeps you in the game as far as the mid game is concerned when Draconis is going around doing stuff. But
Yeah.
Deadwood and Silhouette are next to useless.
I assume you mean Swiftblade, not Silhouette.
Oh yeah, Swiftblade.
Yeah.
Swiftblade.
I actually did not watch too much in the mid game because, and we'll talk about in a minute why, but I actually spend the first 30 or so, 35 minutes, for the most part, just sitting in top lane, free farming essentially because they tend to not contest me. But yeah, I would imagine somebody
Really
holds
bad
off.
bloodlust attempt at bot.
Yeah, the whole Swiftblade Succubus lane is actually great, but unfortunately they ended up going bottom. Had they gone top, they definitely would have been able to, well, hopefully would have been able to kill at least
Swiftblade boots
Pyromancer.
first as well.
Oh, Swiftblade's items. Okay, so while we're in a little state of, no action here, we'll talk about starting items. Swiftblade got boots first. I'm not
Yeah.
I'm not against boots first on Swiftblade, but I'm against boots first in the long lane on Swiftblade.
You're not going to get a kill, so
Yeah,
it's completely
so
not
you
worth it.
should, in my opinion, concede the fact that you picked Swiftblade to begin with, which is kind of unfortunate if you're going to go in the long lane, and just go Hatchet Shield and try and farm. The other thing is they're against a Panda down here, so they should do quite well. Succubus just straight up auto-attacking, fighting him, I'm not sure why. But so yeah, so they should do quite well down there, considering, what the lane is. I'm not sure how well they do, considering I know Swiftblade doesn't do all that good this game, but let's see, creep score so far, Swiftblade 3-2. Okay, so that's pretty bad. Again, Succubus just walking in and attacking him. I don't understand this. If she had...
I think, hang on, let me just make sure that we're right at the exact same replay time if you want to just pause it quickly, because
Yeah.
I think we might be slightly out of sync. I'm at 5:47 when I
Alright,
paused
I
it.
am at 5:49.
Okay, hang on. Okay, I am now at 5:49, so we can press play
Alright.
now.
Okay.
Okay.
So now we see Succubus again going in to just basically auto-attack trade with him. Unnecessary. She's ranged, he's melee. Doesn't make any sense. So
Not
maybe
kiting
she...
or anything.
Hmm?
Not kiting him or anything like that. Or
Yeah.
just-
Maybe she plays quite well in the mid game. That's a very good possibility. But that's a pretty huge mistake to be making. I mean, against a Panda, there's no reason you should take any damage. Other than that, her items, I'm fine with her items. The only thing is that she didn't get any wards, which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
I don't really like...
Thunderbringer's doing a good job of actually playing support, even though it's not really a support role.
Yeah, the only thing is that he isn't really playing... He's not playing a support hero, I agree. The only thing, though, is that there's at least probably 7 attempts at him taking last hits from me, which isn't horrible. It's just a little bit, you shouldn't be doing that, especially if you're playing side lane Thunderbringer.
barely missing a kill on Pyro there. One more auto
yeah,
attack.
I know. I'll be honest with you. That was my fault because
Yeah, well, you
yeah.
didn't know that one more auto attack would have done it, I guess. But
Yeah. I didn't know he was gonna chain lightning him and get him that low. I was under the impression that he was gonna get away. I'll take the blame for that. One. He could have gotten the kill there.
Succubus looks to be fucked. Oh no! And Swiftblade get Bloodlust and then dies. Okay.
Okay, so Swiftblade for Solstice, not a terrible trade, but certainly shouldn't have been in the
Well,
in
with how low Succubus is now, Panda's going to get free farm as well, so that's kind of balances out for Panda.
And Succubus should just leave. There's no reason to stay when you're that low.
There she's going.
Yeah, there she goes. All right. And, okay, I didn't notice this. So, apparently, when I was playing the game, I didn't notice this. Apparently, Deadwood got a bottle, but then he loses almost every single rune to Draconis.
Yeah, Draconis is completely crushing him. I mean, if you look at Draconis, he's got quite a good creep score, 25, 5 minutes in, 26. That's pretty much, like, spot on, really.
Yeah, that's just about where he should be. I mean, technically...
How are you doing at this point? 14, that's alright.
Yeah, this is my biggest problem as Flint. For the first, like I was saying, 5 minutes or so, give or take, maybe a little more than that. Flint has just such a low attack damage that it's really hard to get last hits against players who are actually not bad at last hitting.
Yeah, no, I would agree. You actually stay at 200, 250 gold per minute for quite a long time. You recover it later on, but it was a problem at the start with how well Draconis started doing.
Oh yeah, most definitely. But that, to be fair, that comes back to him just being a better player than our solo mid. Because, in my opinion, and this is a little bit opinionated because it does come back to skill, but I don't think Deadwood should be losing in creep score to a Draconis.
No, I don't think so either. And he misses a Rotten Grasp there.
Yeah.
And Draconis should have his boots on agility, but he doesn't. He's got 1 strength.
So
I guess Deadwood's level 6. So.
Yeah, but to be fair, I mean, it'd be hard for Deadwood to come in to get an ult off anyways, because even if he hits a Rotten Grasp, you can just blast your Q and then run away with Blazing Fire. So
yeah,
a little bit there, going top, killing Thunderbringer, a little bit out of position, which is actually kind of odd because we had a ward, so I'm not sure why he walked into that, but and actually right there you notice Deadwood gets an ult off and it's not even enough. So.
Yeah, and Deadwood just gets killed as well here.
Yeah.
Staying around too long.
Yep. So this is the point, and actually there was a point earlier on in the game, I'm not sure the exact point, probably something like 4 minutes would be my guess, where Deadwood essentially becomes useless because of how far behind he is.
Close to getting a kill on Flux there as well. Who's playing support up in the top lane out of Flux and Pyro? Who's taking the creep kills? I wasn't really watching it.
That would be Flux's... Well, here's what I should actually mention. If you look at the creep score, neither of them are taking creep kills.
Oh, that does contribute to helping you win the lane.
We're at 7 minutes now, and Pyromancer is 3 creep kills, 1 deny, and Flux is 8 creep kills and 3 denies. So, technically, Flux is the one getting more, but neither of them are farming at all.
Swiftblade and Succubus, neither of them are really farming. Swiftblade's got his Ring of the Teacher, which is a weird item, and he's got it switched on, which is stupid.
Yeah, he shouldn't have that turned on for creeps.
Deadwood's roaming down bot without boots.
And no ward or rune, so he's probably not going to do much down here. They actually... The Hellborn, or the Legion team actually didn't have a ward to see that coming, so it looks like they just got a little bit lucky in guessing it.
I noticed that... Oh my god, Solstice. Fail ult.
Yeah, he does that a couple times throughout the game, actually.
Deadwood's probably going to die. Yeah, Deadwood's dead. Yeah, I did notice that Thunderbringer also counter-warded, which is nice.
Yeah, he did counter-ward. No. Wait, where did he counter-ward?
The pool, didn't he?
I'm not sure. He might have. It's at 8 minutes now, though, so the ward would have disappeared by now, anyways.
I seem to recall when I watched it the first time that he did that. I think I noted that.
It's possible, maybe. I don't remember him doing it, but it is possible. I was more so focused on farming rather than that. So I actually, before we go any further, I kind of want to bring notice to a point. The only reason it's okay for me and Thunderbringer to be this far up is simply because of the fact that I tend to be very map aware at this point because of how far behind we are. Now, I noticed that Draconis was missing. I also noticed that some of them were on bots, some of them being Flux and Panda and all them. That is actually a big thing. Had Draconis been missing and Flux was up here, it would not be okay to be this far up.
Yeah, I mean, they do end up killing both of them at bot. Swiftblade tried to greed and actually almost threw the kill by taking the mez, but...
Yeah. There was, I believe it was this game actually, where it might have been a different game, but Swiftblade actually just, I noticed a couple times where he ults when it's totally unnecessary.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's what Swiftblades, and pretty much any, in the 1500s, pretty much any hero who has an ultimate that is really a kill ultimate, they love to do that in the 1500s.
You got Deadwood coming up, he runs past the ward though, and then running away.
Yeah, they tend to be playing very well. The only reason that we actually end up coming back from this game is because of the fact that Draconis, even though he is fairly good at farming, yeah,
he throws so hard.
Yeah, they throw pretty hard when I start getting a little bit of farm and I get to the point where I can actually do some damage to them. They get pretty cocky and die unnecessarily.
Yeah, I've got to say that's actually if they had played well, you wouldn't have won despite how well you end up doing, because it comes down to Draconis throwing really hard just as much as you doing well, and Succubus keeping you in the game in the mid game.
Yeah, and another thing is actually they gave up too early. They threw, but they weren't at the point where they couldn't come back, only because of how poor the rest of my team did despite me and Succubus.
Yeah, so, I'm just going to bring up the GPM at the moment, and Deadwood's right at the bottom, and Draconis right at the top with 345, 346.
Yeah. I mean, even if you look at it now, GPM, Draconis at 350, I'm only at 200 at the moment. Even if I get free farm for, 25 minutes, it shouldn't be any chance that we could come back from this. You
shouldn't win this, and what actually happens is that Draconis, I mean, when I watched this the first time, he does well. He gets a nullstone pretty early. For some reason he didn't get the sustainer. He got the blessed orb first, which I don't agree with. It's like one of the most cost to stats inefficient items in the game.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Not to mention
huge
this
fail by both teams at the bot lane there. Edward's probably going to die anyway in the end.
Just watching this game reminds me of how mad I was the first time it happened. On the upside, if you look over here, it looks like they're going to get a kill on Draconis here.
Yeah.
Maybe?
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they get him.
Yeah. So,
as I was saying, he does get his he gets his nullstone and stuff, but then he decides to start trying to fight way too early, and
well, it comes down to misplay all around. They just over and over again, there were a number of cases where they got too cocky and tried to kill me a couple of times where they ended up dying because of their cockiness. We have a nice Swiftblade ultimate, actually. That was, I'll give him props for that one. There was just the two of them. Had it just been Pyro, it would have been an instant kill, but the two of them
should kill Solstice unless Squad tries to greed and takes the mez. Nah, they should get.
I think they do. Yeah, okay. So they do get Solstice. This is where they should get back. Yeah, they should definitely get back. Even without this port, Panda doesn't have any mana, but that doesn't mean you should stay behind the tower like that. So, a little bit greedy.
Yeah. This is what I was talking about. Draconis should, when he's this far ahead, he should just go and farm.
Yeah.
He shouldn't be trying to gank and stuff with Draconis. He needs to go and farm. If he'd have done what he was supposed to do, you would have lost.
Oh yeah, and not just him, the whole team. A number of them end up misplaying despite his best efforts, and it all comes back down to this being the 1500s and they make the numbers.
Edward's dead.
Yeah. They shouldn't have tried to fight that. They were outnumbered to begin with, and they knew it.
Yeah, that was horrible. They just all died. But this whole time, another reason that you win this game, I noticed, which you probably won't have noticed yourself when you were playing it, is for some reason they never gank you, and in team fights they never focus you either.
Oh yeah. It's like I noticed it while I was playing. Unfortunately for them, they chose not to. They literally, this is what I was saying when I was saying that I free farm for like the first 30 minutes or something. They basically don't come up here and contest it at all, really.
Exactly, and later on in the team fights, for some reason they don't focus you.
Well, but to be fair, in their part, they don't have anyone that has. I mean, they have Flux. They could pull me in, in that sense, but they don't have anyone that really builds a PK to initiate properly.
Yeah. Unless you got one on Pyro or Panda, which you could. But...
Pyro would be the first choice, but Pyro ends up kind of A, getting crappy farm, and B, kind of playing like a supporty Pyro in a way.
Yeah.
I mean, so it comes down to A, them not having initiation, B, them just not focusing the right players. And then I also want to note, I was actually, for the most part, there may have been a couple cases, but I was actually very well positioned throughout the team fights.
No, you were. You did everything right, and it helped that they did everything wrong as well. I honestly don't think even with you doing as well as you did, and your positioning is always really good in the fights, and you're always off to the side and making sure that you're getting far enough back to get the auto attacks off without getting killed. Honestly, I don't think that you would have won if they played it right, even with you doing well.
No, because it comes down to a team game. One player. If the enemy team is playing correctly, no one player should be able to win the game by himself.
Yeah. And I'm just looking at the GPM. Everyone's GPM is bad.
Yeah, for the most part.
It's low tier game, man.
I mean, if you actually look at the GPM, everybody's doing bad. And if you look at the creep score, everyone's doing bad. And that actually comes back to almost the same thing. Now, at this point in the game, 15 minutes, Deadwood, Thunderbringer, and Pyromancer, in theory, those three heroes should have a fair amount of kills and assists and things of that nature, because they're not as big of farm heroes. Now, all three of them actually have fairly decent abilities to farm, but that's not like their primary role.
Yeah.
But if you look at all three of their scores, with the exception of Pyromancer, who I actually want to note stole a number of those kills if you go back and watch.
Yeah.
With the exception of him, everybody who should be getting kills has nothing. They're not doing any part of their role so far in the game.
I'm not really sure what Draconis is doing up here. And he's not getting any farm. He's not stopping you from getting any farm.
Well, I think his original idea was to stop me, but if you watch, my range just dominates him. He can't even touch me.
Yeah.
I think in a second here I flare him and almost kill him. Yeah.
Yeah. You ult him and he ports out. You end up checking the wrong place, unfortunately.
Oh yeah.
I remember because you ult him here.
Yeah, and then I keep chasing. Yeah, he ports out.
He goes up and left, and you checked quite far up. He ported out straight away.
Yeah.
You check up. Yeah. There's two spots you can go really to port out, and just 50-50 chance of getting the right one.
Yeah. But when it comes to farming, at about this time of the game, actually, once Flint, I level his flare first, and then his range. It depends a bit on the game if I'm doing...
It does. He's one of those heroes that there's not really a way you build him in every single game.
Yeah, the only thing that you shouldn't do every game when it comes to leveling is you shouldn't max hollow point shells first. That's...
Well, no, his scaling ability is his only scaling ability. You don't need it first. You don't have the attack speed to do much with it.
Yeah, and on top of that, all you want hollow point shells for early on is the
CS.
Yeah, is the CS. You don't use it for fighting. So your main fighting keys or skills are the other two. And on top of that, both of them, but more so the range, because the flare is very mana cost efficient, or costs... I can't think of the right word, but it costs a lot of mana is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
The range is so beneficial to farming and in team fights, which you'll see, but it helps a lot. That was the only reason I was allowed to essentially beat Draconis up here. In a one-on-one fight, if he was in range, he would have dominated me at this point.
Yeah. And here we go with what I was saying earlier. You've got your GPM slowly creeping up, and Draconis is slowly going down because he's just wasting so much time not doing anything, like chasing heroes over the map when he should be farming.
And if you watch my CK just at about the 16-minute mark, 15-minute mark, as he died and had to go beat, well, he didn't die, but he had to go back, that was the point where my creep score surpassed his. He was wasting time.
Yeah, exactly.
And now I have a higher creep score, which, again, is what it comes back down to. And he's way out of position right here, both him and Orange. Yeah, he's dead here. So yeah, actually right here, Deadwood got a little mad at me because I canceled Draconis' sleep before he could rot in grass. When it's 5-on-1, it doesn't make a huge difference, but just so people know, it is something you shouldn't do, I guess.
Ulti just to make sure, he's dead. And
for those of you who don't know, the sleep that Succubus has, I think it's called Mesmerize. If you auto-attack someone, it steals it. Like if you auto-attack someone who has it, or if you use a skill, it cancels it. Like an AoE skill on them, it cancels the sleep.
Yeah.
Oh, by
So,
the way, how do I bring up the items for the heroes on the
if
side
you
of the
press
screen?
tab, it'll come. It should come up.
Tab. Oh,
No.
oh, I have to hold down tab.
Oh, well on mine it's like auto set to come up. I'm not sure why. I didn't do anything for that, so I'm not sure. But, well, we'll talk about items in periodically anyway. So, this team fight, this is...
Yeah, you're doing good. Backing off and going back in. It's good positioning on your part.
So
Dead was
actually,
fucked.
there was
No.
a point in there where I had bad positioning. I was within tower range and fighting people.
You're
and-
probably gonna die here.
Yeah, I do die. And,
Yeah, you're fucked.
yeah, that's one of the cases where it actually, my positioning was off because I did not run away fast enough. What I should have done is gone through the jungle as opposed to heading up towards the tower, because my team, actually a couple of them were in the jungle there. It's not a huge deal. That one death isn't like exponentially terrible, but it does make a big difference. And actually, I want to note right there, Succubus puts herself...
Succubus. Yeah, that was smart. That was
Yeah.
good. Actually sets it up to get the other 2 kills.
Yeah.
That was really good play by her.
Yeah. So, I mean, now I see what you mean when you say Succubus plays really well. She ulted right. She put herself to sleep, which is something you rarely see Succubuses in the 1500s do.
Yeah.
It can be used defensively too. For those of you who don't know, again, if somebody takes it from you, it puts them to sleep. But it essentially, they can't use single target skills on you. So Panda's ultimate can't use it on him. Were there any other Solstice's stun? But I think his stun was on cooldown at that point. Although actually he used it and the stun didn't affect him after he had already used the stun.
Yeah, that's right.
So
that's good play by her.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna quickly have a look at the items hang on. Pyro, I don't like Ghost Marchers on him. I prefer Steam Boots because he's already squishy. Draconis items are fine. Panda's items are fine. Probably wouldn't bother with the Iron Shield, but they're alright.
Well, the Iron Shield, and I'm not sure what he's going to build through that Mana Tube.
Nullstone, I presume. That's what I would get.
Well, yeah, that makes sense. I would just get the Health Tube first, but I mean, I guess he is a pretty mana hero, so I can see it either way.
See, that doesn't really help him that much though, because the regen is not going to be effective when you don't have any items to have the base mana pool to do anything with the regen. Draconis just out of position. Don't know what he was doing.
I do want to note that actually this is something Flint's mess up on a lot. I was running away from Draconis at first because again in a one-on-one fight he would dominate me at this point. And again a whiff Solstice ultimate here. But if you note, I turn around as soon as he starts turning around because my range dominates him. That's the key to playing Flint. You need to know the right and wrong minutes and moments to use the range or to run away because he doesn't have any escape. So if you make one slight mistake, you're dead, and that's what it comes down to. I
don't know what Deadwood thinks he's going to do against Panda there. Oh, is he going? What's he going to do?
No, he gets owned again.
Yeah, I don't know why he thought. I mean, Panda has the highest starting armor in the game. You can't just expect when you're underleveled like that to be able to. Thunderbringer gets him anyway, but.
Well, it comes down to it wouldn't have mattered his starting armor anyways. He's got 3 levels on Deadwood, so.
Yeah, exactly.
Deadwood's 3 levels ahead. Deadwood can't kill anybody who's 3 levels ahead of him. You couldn't kill maybe like a support like Infora or something, but even then it would be tough.
Yeah, just going to finish going through item Solstice. Shieldbreaker first item, I don't agree with that. It's fine on him if you want that as your attack modifier, but I don't think first item is any good whatsoever. You need some more stats. Flux's item's fine. Thunderbringer's item's fine. Your items, I don't like Frostburn on Flint, but that's...
Well, what would you go for your first item then?
There's nothing wrong with that. I normally get more stats items, like I'd get probably investments, I'd get maybe a power supply and probably go for an energizer. And then I would start building my next items like a Geobane or a Assassin Shroud into a Genjuro. I don't particularly like the Frostburn / Frostwall Skull as the attack modifier on Flint, but there's nothing wrong with it.
Well, so my argument would be, A, I don't get power supply on Flint as well as the Mystic Vestments for 2 reasons. One, normally I would get a Mystic Vestments if I'm too far behind. But when I'm this far ahead at this point, if you'll note my levels, top in the game, well tied for it, but still, top in the game.
GPM is higher than Draconis now as well.
Yeah, my GPM is doing quite well. I've only gotten 1 death, which was a mistake that shouldn't have happened to begin with, but still. And I'm not really taking too much damage. I'm more so very passive, and
There goes Deadwood with another panic ult on Panda.
he's I don't I mean you could write a whole essay on all the mistakes he did wrong in this game.
No, he's just trash.
I don't understand. I don't know how he even got to 1500s, to be honest with you. He should be lower than that.
He's not. He's 1400.
Oh, is he? Well, even
Yeah.
still, that's still a little bit of a stretch for him. Pink being Thunderbringer, kind of getting a little bit ballsy here. No ward. Oh, yeah, no wards up. So I think. Oh, sorry, we do have a ward right here. So he did see bottom rune. Okay, my mistake. But, still, I mean, he had a haste rune, so I guess it's a little bit. But it looks like he may pay for it. No, he just barely gets out. Yeah, he's gone. Yeah. Okay. So, so yeah, to finish off the ultimates. So Succubus with a sacrificial stone. I would have actually preferred to see a PK on Succubus.
Yeah, a PK or a tablet maybe. There's nothing wrong with Sackstone. It's good to have one on the team, and obviously it gives some nice stats and survivability. But you want the mobility from either a portkey or a tablet.
Well, and on top of that, because Deadwood did so poorly, we don't really have any initiation.
Yeah, that's also true.
Because, I mean, Deadwood would be the go-to initiation with presumably his portal key, but, I mean, if you look at his items, he doesn't have anything close to
two sets of boots. one for each foot.
I mean, he's got nothing. I don't know what he's doing, so...
Swiftblade's item build is weird. He looks like he's maybe going for a Nullstone or a Rune Cleaver, and then he gets the Quick Blade.
Well, so I would agree with you. I think it looks like he was going for a Rune Cleaver, but then realized it was going to take him too long to get it, and he just decided to stay with the survivability from the Sustainer and move on to his next item for now. That's fine, I think, only if... Well, it's not fine. That means he's doing bad if he had to cancel an item, essentially, and turn around for another item.
He can still make it to a Nullstone, which would be useful against Panda.
That's what I was going to say. If he completes this into a Runed Cleaver at this point, I'm very much so against it. A Runed Cleaver 30 minutes or later is just bad. That's just a bad
Also,
item.
I generally think, unless it's on a hero like Dark Lady who actually synergizes with her skills, not only to farm but for fights, that getting it in pubs where people aren't stacking is generally bad. Oh, I want to note your positioning in this fight is pretty good.
It is all the way up until the point where Flux gets me here.
Yeah.
Only because I didn't have any support there. So they got two tunnel visioned onto Draconis, who they weren't going to catch anyways. Yeah,
and
they didn't protect their care.
They really tunnel visioned on him, and then they die anyway. Look, they're still trying to chase him down.
Yeah.
And they both die to him, which is really just horrible.
Real quick, I just want to sync up one more time. I'm at 2950.
29:45.
Yeah, so that's it. So you're a few seconds behind.
Okay, now 29:52, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Okay.
Is that about the same now?
Yeah, probably. All right. So, okay. So, like I was saying with Swiftblade's items, if he makes that into a Nullstone, I'm fine with it. If he makes that into something else, i.e. a Rune Cleaver would be the only other logical choice.
Resto Stone.
Yeah. I mean, that could be. I've never seen that on Swiftblade, but I mean, somebody who doesn't understand the game and who's like, oh, I can do 2 Swiftblade ultimates may go a little bit crazy there. But
yeah.
I haven't seen. The only time I've actually seen a Restoration Stone in a long time was like one game ago. I saw it on Tempest.
I get it on Tree as like last item.
Oh, really? I don't see that many trees anymore, to be honest with you. He's not a hero you see picked up all that often in solo queue, really.
No, I actually, when I solo queue, I run him a lot because you can either go jungle or suicide, and he's just a great solo hero because you press R, you port to another lane, you push a tower, you're giving your team an advantage, and
yeah, that's true.
I don't know what Succubus is doing all the way up there.
Way out of position. Like, so far.
He jukes so many of their skills. They're so bad.
Well, if you saw the cannonball at the very beginning, Panda wasn't even close to hitting something.
Yeah, and then they missed the Solstice Assault. They missed Wave. I don't understand why you're playing with these people, man. Why they're in your games.
So 1500s. I don't know what to tell you. It's like a it's like a 50-50. You either get somebody who understands the game and is kind of either working their way up or just barely can't break through the 1600s, or you get people who are just all over the place and have no idea what they're doing in the slightest.
Again, that's good positioning you got there, staying far enough away, like letting them kill Deadwood while you just kill them.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah.
your GPM's up there is decent now. It's not, like, amazing, but to be honest, Flint's a pretty shit farming hero, so you're doing quite well, especially considering the start. And
Well,
Draconis is just throwing all over the place as well. He's not farming.
Well, what I want to say is Flint's an exceptionally bad farming hero because of how bad he does early game when it comes to farming. I mean, you do bad early game and it essentially delays your items and delays your ability to get more farm. And on top of that, the only farming ability he has is his flare, which again costs a fair amount of mana, so you can't really spam it.
Yeah, I mean, I actually quite like Lightbrand on him, or well, I would get, what's it called, Searing Light on him.
Yeah.
For the reason that it gives you the dot for the farm and it gives you the ability to spam flare with the mana regen as well.
Well, so
you get it early though, which you weren't going to get.
Yeah. So I don't mind that item. I just think, and again, it's good for farming, but it comes down to the game again. I think if you're going to play a really passive farming game, it's not a bad item to get. And Thunderbringer just out of position and deciding to fight a Draconis one-on-one. I don't understand that. He had a double damage, I guess. That's not really going to do it. Oh, that was actually... Swiftblade didn't plan that, but he had his spin up while Solstice ulted, and it negated all the damage to it. So, you know, poor choice by Solstice, again, with his ultimate. I think that's the 4th ultimate I've seen him mess up. The other 3 were just blatant misses, but... So
then I want to note, when I watch this game, I don't really want to focus on Swiftblade too much, but I do want to mention something that I noticed, which I see a lot of people playing Swiftblade do, is you can tell that when he's chasing someone, he's right-clicking on their hero instead of just running ahead, and a lot of the time when he gets fogged, he stops, and he would have got the kill otherwise.
Yeah, so... I mean, I haven't brought that
is something
up.
People never do.
Yeah, I haven't brought that up too much in my videos. Back in the day, way back in the day when I started playing, we used to call it orb walking.
Yeah.
They don't. I think they've kind of dropped that term now, and nobody really uses it. But essentially, for those of you who maybe didn't totally understand his explanation, instead of, you know, if you just like right-click on the hero, your hero will chase that hero and attack him when he gets close enough. But for example, if you click in front of the hero, and every time you get close enough and your attack animation is off cooldown, that's actually a real key part of it, you attack and then keep clicking in front of where he's gonna be. It gives you more mobility, it makes you move faster, essentially. It doesn't really, but if
helps you catch up and get autos.
Once you do it, you'll understand what we mean by that. Well, and it comes into play a lot when you're playing heroes such as melee carries.
God.
But
look at Panda's items. Looks like he's going for a Rune Cleaver.
I think he goes for a Nullstone, to be honest with you. And I'm not upset with the Nullstone, only because of, if you look at all the single target like key abilities we have on our team. Like,
and just for farming as well, if he actually farmed, which he doesn't.
I think pretty much everybody in this game, with the exception of me, Draconis, and Solstice, has no idea how to farm correctly.
Oh, you nearly died to the Solstice dot there.
I
get out of it. Yeah, you nearly died to the Solstice, like, AoE dot thing.
Oh yeah, you know what? Actually, I was actually, like, as I played this game, I was doing that thing where, like, you're like, no, please don't die. I was like, oh my god, no, what, move? But it did end up working out. That was actually, like, at the first, if you watched it at the beginning, I'm actually going to rewind just to show it again because I missed the beginning of it. If you watch at the beginning, when we fight, I'm, like, running away. Like, I see the ultimate too late, and I take damage from the ultimate. And Solstice is beating on me, getting very close to killing me. And same thing, you know, his W ends up getting me down very close.
Yeah, there's something that I wanted to notice when I watched this the first time, which you do well, is something that a lot of people I don't see doing. When you start taking damage, you switch your boots from agility to strength. And actually, if you didn't do that, you probably would have died to that dot. And that's something that people in this bracket, especially, which is probably the people that are submitting these replays to get them watched, is they don't really think of doing. They either leave them permanently on strength, or they leave them permanently on their primary stat, be it agility or int or strength. And you need to switch them up. Like when you're using an ability on int when you're farming, it's always going to be on your primary attribute, depending on what hero you're playing. And then obviously on strength, if you're getting focused or initiated on, or just like generally in team fights, if you think you're going to start taking damage.
Yeah, so I 100% agree. You'll actually, in this game, not as much, but in a number of games I play, I actually forget it a lot of the time, too. It's just, it's one of those things that isn't, like, innately in my mind yet. But just to emphasize that, I mean, you wouldn't buy, like, a Kuldra's Sheepstick and not use the ability, you know what I mean, guys?
Yeah.
So that's essentially the ability of Ghost Marchers, is the ability to change the primary stat. So you want to make sure you're using that whenever applicable.
I don't know why Pyro tried to fight you there. Let me just, obviously, we reset to watch that little replay, make sure we're in the right place.
So I'm at 36-27.
Okay, 36-11. So let me just catch up and then we'll press play again. 36, what am I at? 36, 20, 21, 22, 23. When were you, sorry?
27.
Okay, press play.
Alright.
So, it should be at the same place now.
Okay, so another thing I actually want to note about my build, I got the Assassin Shroud. I'm not against Assassin Shroud on Flint. I love going Assassin Shroud on Flint. He has no escape.
If you build it into a Genjuro.
Yeah, so two things on that. One, if you're going to build it into a Genjuro. Two, Flint doesn't have an escape, so getting an escape item is fine. But I think you only need it if you're, or rather only need it early if you're not doing quite as well as you would like to be, like your positioning is off a little bit or something along those lines, because there are better damage items you can get, you know, Savage Mace or Wingo or whatever. So the main reason to get a Assassin Shroud, or a Genjuros in general, but Assassin Shroud, is for the invisibility part of it, not for the little bursty damage that it gives you.
Yeah, what I really dislike is when I see people getting just an Assassin Shroud and not getting into a Genjuro. I actually hate the item Assassin Shroud on anyone if you don't build it into a Genjuro. And for that reason, I don't really like Assassin Shroud or Genjuro on anyone but agility heroes, with the exception of Puppet Master and maybe a couple of others.
Well, Puppet Master is actually an intelligence hero.
Yeah, no, that's why I said with the exception of.
Oh yeah, but so I actually did complete the Genjuros right there. So, and you'll note that I'm using it almost instantly. And once I noticed, and actually in this fight, once I noticed that Pyromancer's stun is on cooldown, I turn around and fight. I noticed he wasted his stun. He can't beat me now, so I turn around and fight. It's a little bit iffy. I did take a Pyromancer ultimate, which isn't that big of a deal because of how enormous Flint's range is. We actually end up, I would say, losing this fight.
Oh yeah, badly.
Yeah, it's.
I love the portal key on Thunderbringer, by the way.
Really, you like Portal Key Thunderbringer?
Yeah, because of his passive. If it puts you in the middle of the fight, you do a significant amount more damage.
Well, so I would agree with that, except for I think instead of a portal key, if you just got a tablet of command, you could do the same thing and assist your team.
It looks like it's going to get both, which is good. I think I would rather get a tablet first because of the utility and being able to, you know, survive ganks with it better because you can use it when you're in combat.
Yeah. So
Deadwood.
He's got to get that grasp off. I don't. That's his. If you look at his score, that is just on a Deadwood. That's a little bit pathetic to have a score that bad.
Well, he's not going for a portal key. He's getting his souls, which, you know, is always good to have one on the team.
So I actually agree with that, though. He wasn't. I mean, when you realize, and I say this in a couple of my videos, when you're at the point where you realize you can't play your role anymore, you should support the team in doing their roles.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
So
I actually
Deadwood
ended up playing a support Tundra the other day.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, when you can't initiate or can't carry or whatever it is, and you get behind, in this case, Deadwood just played absolutely horrendously. But he got so far behind, skip the portal key. You're not going to be initiating anyways. Go straight for your next item, which in my case, I would have gotten the Soul's Bulwark next anyways.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't know if that's necessarily what this guy did. He probably just realized that he was never going to get 2,000 gold without dying.
Yeah, I think that's probably his mindset. And actually, he's about to complete the Soul's Bulwark here. I want to note, Solstice actually just got a Blessed Orb, which I'm not against what I'm assuming is going to be either a Nullstone or maybe a Geo's Bane or something along those lines.
I hate Geo's Bane on non-agility heroes.
Well, so I would agree
pointless.
with you, but my big concern is that we noticed that Shield Breaker very long ago, and now he's just getting his next item.
Yeah.
We noticed that probably the 20-minute mark or something along those lines. So his GPM is, it's not amazing, but he should be doing better than that.
Yeah.
It's kind of a delayed thing. I will say Flux's items. I actually love Flux's items.
I was literally just about to mention that. I was about to say it's ironic that their lowest MMR player is their best player.
Yeah.
I kind of feel bad for Flux being stuck with that team.
Yeah,
Almost
yeah.
as bad as I feel for you to be stuck with your team, with the exception of Succubus.
Yeah, so I love his items. Panda's actually... So Panda went for a Rune Cleaver, so I hate Panda.
Oh god, it's horrible. That's so horrible.
So he went for a Rune Cleaver, which first of all is a bad item on Panda to begin with. But then on top of that, he got it really late, so...
Yeah, I hope that Helm of the Victim is going to be an Insanitarius and not a lifesteal. I would
Whispering Helm.
Yeah.
So I actually want to comment on the fact that even though Succubus...
This is good what you do here as well, actually, in this fight. Like, you notice your positioning was wrong at the start, and then you run back a bit, and then carry on going. And this is what I was talking about. If you watch that fight, they don't focus you at all.
That's true. But again, it comes back to them just not having, A, the ability to focus me, but B, also them just misplaying it.
Yeah.
They shouldn't have initiated there to begin with, though. They didn't have any sight. They didn't know how many of us were there. And on top of that, they know how well I'm doing. That shouldn't have been...
You throwing out the GG well played there?
Yeah. Honestly, at this point, and they actually conceded at 42, so it was pretty close. Like, at this point, when I was at 13-2, this far ahead, again, I don't play Flint like an insane amount, but when I do this well on Flint, it's almost impossible that we're going to lose the game. It's really, really unlikely.
Yeah.
And actually, we do get the completed Tablet of Command on Thunderbringer.
Yeah, which is not... I really do like Thunderbringer's items there, because he can PK in, use all his spells, get all the damage off, push stick himself out, or use that to help someone else that's out of position.
Well, see, what I would prefer is if he PK'd in, use all his spells, and then essentially be like Slither. I consider Slither kind of like a bomb. Like, you blow all your spells, and then essentially it's okay if you die as long as you hit all your spells, and it really doesn't make a huge difference because, your main damage...
that was such a fast mesmerize. Did you see that? Flux PK'd in, she mezzed him straight away.
Yep. She has really good reaction time throughout this game. Like, and all the cases...
I hate the staff, by the way.
There's at least 2 cases where she mesmerizes herself, like, in a fairly short period of time to save her... Well, attempt to save her life.
Yeah. I like the way she's playing. She's playing well. I hate her items so much. The staff, I hate that.
I would never get a staff on Succubus, ever. That's a really bad item. Other than that, though, to be honest with you, the Sacrificial Stone I don't like, but it's fine on her, I don't think.
Yeah.
And then I think the Sacrificial Stone and the Blood Chalice is a little bit overkill on regen.
Yeah, oh, there you go. Mez one, ult the other.
Yeah.
Pyro's items horrible. Spell shards only item. No survivability. No portal key. Hate that.
The Pyromancer didn't play well throughout the entire game. And
Solstice just feeding for no reason.
That's well. He gets caught out against me. In this case, he can't. He shouldn't have been there, to be honest with you.
He shouldn't have. 2 of his team had just died.
I think his theory was that I wasn't there. So to be honest with you, Solstice can probably 1v1 anybody else on the team. Like, I would say Swiftblade would be the one that maybe he couldn't if he had a Swiftblade ult up, but he could pretty much kill anybody else on the team without problem, really.
Yeah. Not with you with the Genjuro over the Thor. You can escape. You wouldn't kill him without team support, though, 1v1, I don't think. Well, you would now.
Yeah.
Because you can just kite him with the Frostwolf Skull.
Yeah. So
one will mention the Frostwolf Skull. I would prefer to have seen the Geobane first, because obviously it gives you more damage and it gives you yet another escape mechanism. But it's not a big deal, especially not when you've essentially already won.
Well, so my thought process behind that was, well, A, I'm not dying a lot, but B, mostly it's because I already have the Genjuros, so I have quite a bit of an escape right there, especially if they aren't buying detection. But I mean, I don't think I need another survivability item, and I really like the Frostwolf only because of the fact I really only like getting a Frostwolf if the enemy hard carry is melee, and in this case, Draconis is not melee, but Solstice is.
Yeah.
So if the enemy hard carry isn't melee, I really don't like.
Oh, I think you're fucked here.
No, me? No.
Oh no.
See,
There you go.
no, see, I am most certainly not fucked. I don't die for the rest of the game, actually, and they concede here in just a second. Oh, you know what? It's not 42, it's 47, I think. But it is quite a dominatingly victory. Actually, I want to comment on Draconis' items. I don't like a Dawnbringer on him.
I don't like a Dawnbringer on almost anyone. I like it on a very few heroes because I think there's very few heroes that can take advantage of all of the agility and the strength components.
Well, I don't like a Dawnbringer on most heroes. One hero that I actually don't mind Dawnbringer on, for the most part,
I like it.
is I really don't mind it on Solstice, if you're going to go for that as your attack modifier.
Yeah.
And I think maybe one other I might not mind it on is like tanky initiators, such as...
I like it on Dampier.
Dampier's fine, yeah. Any hero that you're going to get a Frostburn and leave it as a Frostburn, like Dampier. Dampier is a hero I would get a Frostburn and not make it into a Geos or Frostwolf.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But I don't like getting it before your other core items. So if you're going to get a Frostburn, or even if you're going to get like a Searing Light, or I'm not sure what the other one's called, a Frozen Light, I think. Yeah. So if you're going to get that, if that's one of the items you want on your hero, then fine. Get your other items and then come back and complete the Dawnbringer as maybe your third, fourth, fifth, sixth item, whatever.
Yeah. To be honest, I'm not sold on the Dawnbringer. Generally speaking, on almost anyone. As I said before, I don't think that there's really, with the exception of someone like as we were discussing, like Dampier or who was it that you said?
Like a tanky initiator or Solstice. Yeah, Solstice would be.
Right. Solstice, I'm not even that sold on him. Mainly because I don't feel that agility items give that much benefit to strength heroes, but I don't think it's bad on him. It's good on Dampier because he can take advantage of the slow, and he needs the int because he's a bursty hero, but he is still agility, so he still gets the benefit from the agility component. So I understand it on him. And
well, so my argument for strength heroes getting agility items, and this is only on a very select group of heroes, is heroes that have an attack, like a passive attack skill that for each attack it like essentially lowers the cooldown. So for example, I'll give you Solstice's passive. Every third attack he does more damage.
Yeah, so the attack speed.
Yeah, so the attack speed. Same thing with Predator, his carnivorous, every attack it procs. And there's others, Scout is actually, he's an agility hero, but same thing on him, he's got that ability that the more attack speed you get, the more his disarm will go. So heroes like that, and I think there's
actually no, that's not true anymore because they changed disarm. It's a cooldown now.
Oh, it's not every attack decreases it by 1?
No, it's a cooldown.
Well, yeah, but they changed it to a cooldown a long time ago, but they changed it to a cooldown, and then on top of that, every time you attacked something, it lowers the cooldown by 1.
Oh, okay, I didn't realize that.
I'll look while we're doing this, but so heroes like that are those are the very few examples of, and it doesn't say in the disarm description, but I believe
it's a very niche item. I do like the addition of the light brand because it gives you the option of that frozen light or searing light on strength or int heroes, which can actually utilize both of those components quite well.
So I like the fact that they introduced the third item, but my real problem with it, and again it comes back to your comment how there are very few heroes.
No hero is going to build Geo's, Grimoire, and Frostwolf Skull. That's why I don't like it.
But so my rebuttal would be, that's fine, but I like it in the sense that, well, we have certain heroes that would build, a Frostburn or a Frozen Light or something, and just leave it as an item for the entire game.
Yeah.
And after they've built their other items, they still have something else they can build onto, which I like.
Yeah, I mean, Dark Lady, for example. I mean,
Yeah.
you can build a Frostwolf on her, but you won't build a Geos on her because you remove your own buffs. Is pointless.
Yeah, it just wouldn't make any sense. But yeah, so we'll do a summary real quick, and then we'll talk about the items for the game. I'm just gonna go ahead and summarize Flint, and then we can both summarize the rest. So Flint, key things to note if you're playing Flint. Really, positioning is probably like the most important thing on him, and I think there'd
Yeah.
be very few people who would even have an argument, even remotely intelligent, against that. And it actually that argument applies to almost all ranged carries without an escape, which is the vast majority of them, really.
Yeah.
With the only exceptions being maybe like Silhouette, she's got that grapple, so positioning isn't quite as much a big deal on
Yeah,
her.
and she's got her ult as well.
Yeah,
You
so
swap out.
yeah, two little escapes there. But most ranged heroes, Forsaken, Corrupted, Flint, etc. They don't really have much of an escape, or like in Draconis' example, he has that movement speed buff, but if he gets stun locked or something, it doesn't help him. So heroes like that, positioning is so important. You really, essentially, and I actually uploaded a video a while ago. I don't remember who I was playing, but I was playing against a Silhouette who played almost flawlessly. The idea behind positioning is essentially you want to basically stay invisible or far enough
Yeah,
back
it was
that
you were
they...
playing Rampage. I watched that game earlier,
Yeah,
actually.
I was playing Rampage, that's what it was. So you want to stay invisible or essentially far enough back that they can't initiate on you until they initiate, and then you want to get in and do your thing. But
Oh, I actually, sorry to stop you. I had a point to bring up. You questioned the portal key pickup on Rampage. I wanted to explain the logic behind it because it doesn't seem like a very logical item when you first think about it. It's so that you can, if you're initiating, for example, on a carry who has a support there, you can PK in and hit the support and then drag the carry away without the support being able to help them, for example.
Well, so I would agree with you, but the only thing is that on Rampage in particular, if you're charging far enough, of course, you become magic immune.
Yeah,
So they can help you after you've been hit already, and in theory,
yeah,
if you've hit them once, presumably your team should be behind you to support you in that.
yeah. It's not necessary, but I just thought I'd explain the logic behind people getting portal key on Rampage.
Yeah. But so back to the Flint. Just quick summary. So
Yeah.
positioning, absolutely crucial. If you can't position as a ranged carry, you're useless, really.
Yep.
If you're, for example, the Draconis, there were a couple times where he was like in the middle of the fights and stuff, and actually, Taddy actually went ahead and noted one of the times at the end there where I was in the middle of a fight and I backed out. I stopped my attack and backed out before I started to attack again. It's really important if you're in the wrong position, if you're in a wrong spot as a carry in general, but mostly a ranged carry because they're so much squishier than melee carries. You're useless. You'll die too quick and you'll be essentially terrible. So that is probably the most important thing as a ranged carry. And then Flint specific things, make sure you're leveling correctly. Sometimes you go flare first, sometimes you would max your ranged first. It
Yeah,
depends
if you're
on,
a solo lane, for example, you
yeah,
max range
if you're
first.
solo laning, I'd prefer ranged. You'd still get one level in the flare for the slow, of course, but you would max your range so that you could farm. Never max the shells first. There's no reason to. Get one level at, probably 4 or 2, or depending on a couple of things, but after that, leave it until your last skill.
Yeah.
And another thing I noticed that a lot of Flints do, make sure you're using your ultimate only at times that it needs to be used. So I see people, I can't tell you how many times I see people where they get a hero down to, a 5th health, give or take, just about the amount that the ultimate would kill you. And then they just charge up their ultimate, even when the enemy hero is right in their face. Now, that's okay to an extent. Up to a certain level, your ultimate does more than your auto attacks will do. But there's a threshold. It's usually probably, if I had to guess, maybe like level 14, 12, something along those lines, where your auto attacks would do more damage in the time that it takes to channel your ultimate.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think that the ult should be used for someone that's going to escape, or if you've got support coming in, even to initiate with that ult and then run up and start attacking them after your support comes in.
Yeah. So, and another thing I actually use it for late game is I just use it for harassment sometimes before we initiate fights. I'll use it to either harass the enemy hard carry or to just pop his nullstone if he has one or something.
Especially if you're defending the base, you can use that from a very long range. It's got a very short cooldown as well.
But past, I would say level 14, maybe a little after that. It kind of depends on your farm, like where you're getting your items and such. there's a time where essentially the ultimate should almost never be used, like just in like fights, like with the exception of when they're escaping, of course, and you can't catch them. And I can't tell you how many times I see people, they'll get them to like 1/5 health, and then instead of just auto-attacking to kill it, they either, I guess that's greed and they want to get the kill themselves or something, and they shoot their ultimate off. And a number of times I've actually seen people die trying to do that instead, because it immobilizes you while you're channeling it. You can't kite, you can't run. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you could cancel the channel, of course, but then there's seconds of time wasted where you could have been auto-attacking. So that's another huge thing that I see Flints do. Other than that, it just comes down to your items and your positioning, really, for the most part. And, I mean, farming throughout the game, but that's kind of with every carry in general, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Item-wise, there's a number of acceptable item builds for Flint. You could go my route. I like Frostburn first after 1 or 2 Soul Scream rings, depending on how far behind or ahead I am. But because he needs those stats early on, because if you wait to get your first major item, you're not going to be farming properly. You're going to be behind. You need at least 1 Soul Scream ring, I think. But yeah, you could go Frostburn. You could go Assassin Shroud first. You could go
Sword build.
Yeah.
Dawnbringer, Genjuro, and Nullfire sword build.
Yeah, you could go all the swords, and then you could go a Doombringer to finish her off. I guess, I don't know.
Yeah.
If you want to be a troll, sure, why not?
I've done it on Swiftblade. It works quite well. Sword
really?
build.
I have. I've never actually done like the full, like all the swords in the game, but it kind of doesn't make sense they let you. I mean, another restriction they could do to make the game a little more challenging was they could give you 2 swords maximum because you only have two hands. I think that would be an interesting change to throw into the game, or maybe like just a casual mode game, like one of the things you could make it so that you can't do. But so anyways, so that's pretty much Flint for the most part. Farming, positioning, don't use your ultimate when you don't need to, and then your build, really.
Just as a general comment on that game, I think it's a perfect example of how to play a carry, how to play a ranged carry, and how to not play a ranged carry, because you showed exactly how to play a ranged carry. Draconis showed exactly how not to play a ranged carry, because he got the advantage early game, and then he tried to be in the team fights far too early when his team was already ahead. He should have just been farming, and if he'd have done that, I think that you wouldn't have been able to win that game. If he'd have gone and got his Shrunken Head and Savage Mace.
Well, yeah, it's just like in the Accursed game I did the other day. The person playing Accursed was doing fine, but not doing fine for the role he was playing.
Exactly.
So he played a solo mid Draconis. I imagine that guy plays solo mid quite a bit, because he kind of played like he was playing Devourer, or like he was playing a solo mid hero that then goes off and fights and ganks and team fights, things like that.
Yeah.
As a hard carry, no, you can't really do that. There are times, and certainly because of how far ahead he was, there were certainly times he could have been fighting, as opposed to farming. Not that that would have been the better choice, but it would have been an acceptable choice. But he didn't execute it correctly. He was out of position a lot. He went into fights to initiate them. He shouldn't have been the one initiating, to say the least. If, for example, a fight happens, I am totally fine with him teleporting to assist in the fight if he's out farming or whatever. Of course, assuming how far ahead he was. And you'll note, actually, I didn't teleport to help fights a lot of the time because of how far behind I was.
Yeah.
I
you
had
would
a
probably
TP.
just end up feeding.
I had a TP at a lot of the first 25 minutes, 30 minutes. I didn't use it to go help the team fights because I wasn't going to be as helpful in the team fight as I would have been farming.
Yeah, and the other thing is, that's another thing I wanted to mention, which people make a lot of mistakes, and it's why they lose when they play carry, is what you were doing. It was spot on. When you saw a team fight that you weren't going to win even if you were there, you went and farmed and pushed other lanes. That's exactly what you need to do. You need to go and push the other lanes where the team fight isn't happening. Even if you're not getting a tower, just pushing out the lanes, getting at least some tower damage, or just going to another lane and picking up the farm there. Because if you're at that fight as a hard carry, under-farmed, all you're going to do is end up probably getting killed, or at least missing out on farm, which you could have otherwise been getting.
Most definitely, and I can't tell you how many times I see people either get mad at me or something because I'm not at the team fights helping, when there would be no point for me to be there because I wouldn't be getting as much utility, essentially, as I would be in other cases. And vice versa. There's times when I get mad at people who are at team fights when they should be farming because they think they need to be in the team fight because they're not used to playing hard carries or something like that.
That's the thing. With with a carry, you have to always be judging where is the best place I can be at this moment. Where is the best place I can be that's going to be most helpful in the long run to a team? You've got to always be thinking of the long run, because if you pick a hard carry, you want the late game. So
Almost
you want to be thinking, am I going to be more useful at this team fight, or if I go and farm some creeps or push a lane?
Yeah.
And then you've got to make a decision. You've got to make the decision quickly, and you always have to have a TP just in case the correct decision is to go to the team fight. If you can clean up a few kills at the end of it, or if you have the ability to counter initiate on someone that's overextending and turn the team fight, you need to TP in. If you don't think you can do that, go and farm or go and push.
Yeah, and another thing is Flint isn't as big of a deal, but certain hard carries have either global ultimates or very long-range ultimates that can assist without actually even being at the team fight. And the ones that come...
Sandwraith.
Yeah, I was going to say, the one that comes to mind right off the bat is Sandwraith, and also Dark Lady's ultimate's fairly long-range.
And also, she's got more useful skills to be in early to mid-game fights than Flint does.
Yeah, she does, because she has the slow, which is a very big slow. I'm not sure the exact percentage, but I know it's quite hefty. I'll actually check real quick. But
and the ultimate is very useful in team fights, and the ultimate actually does also apply a slow, so you will get assists from just using your ult.
Yeah, it does. It's not a very significant slow from the ultimate, though.
It's not, but it's going to net you assists.
60% slow from her Tainted Soul, the W, and it's only a 15% slow from her ultimate. But so again, it comes back to, just because you can't necessarily be at the fight, you need to essentially think about what you should be doing to support the team, not support the fight. People don't think about it as a game. They think about it as moments. They think it moment to moment, and they're like,
they think,
help.
Oh, look, the team needs help, quick, I better go there.
And that's not always the case. And another thing, when you're thinking about that, usually, not always, there are certain cases where it comes down to other factors, but usually as a hard carry, it comes down to where can I get the most farm for at least the first 30 or so minutes, usually. Now, at team fights, that may not necessarily be a question you would think to. You'd be like, oh, well, I need to defend, or oh, we need to push, or something. Well, no, as a carry, until you get your items, you're pretty much essentially useless in comparison to other heroes, really. Especially Flint, more so than others, but, I mean, even, Dark Lady, she's not useless, but still relative to, a Deadwood, or relative to a Solstice, or whatever, essentially useless. I mean...
Yeah.
There's a few examples of times she can be helpful, but you really need to think, where can I get the items that I need to? Can I do that while pushing? If so, then yeah, go push with your team. If I can't do that, if we're not going to be able to get anything done while pushing, whether I'm there or not, then you need to think, well, okay, I need to go farm or go split push or something along those lines.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about, what it comes down to, as I want to keep reiterating this point, is when you're playing a carry, you need to always be aware of where you need to be at that moment.
Yeah.
What you need to be doing.
Mm-hmm. And it's different for each carry. For most ranged carries, it usually comes down to farming early game and team fighting late game. Certain melee carries can do both at the same time, or vice versa. For example, Sandwraith, he can farm and then instantly be in the team fight to help in 2 seconds. So... Yeah. Another example would be a hero like Scout. He can farm, but then he can teleport to assist in team fights because he won't die in the team fight.
Yeah,
he can steal some kills and things.
Yeah. And 6-second silence is huge.
Yeah, these silence, and then on top of that, his ultimate does a percentage of their maximum health.
Yeah.
For those of you
so
who
you
don't
can
know.
You can use it on tanks as well when it's still gonna drop them.
Yeah, but so
and the slow is really good as well. A lot of people I see play Scout, they'll just use the ult to get the last hit, and actually it's quite a good initiation tool if you're ganking as well.
I'm sure that was definitely the original thought process behind the ability, was for initiation, not for stealing kills. Like Flint's ultimate, the theory behind it is most definitely to get people who are running away.
Yeah.
There's almost no other reasoning behind it, but the slow, and on top of that, it's a maximum percentage of people's health, is most definitely meant to be used as initiation, really.
I never really understood the point of the mini stun on Flint's ult, because it's channeling, so you can't exactly use it to stop other channeling spells before they go off.
Well, so I think the thought process behind it was to stop TPs, was for people who run into mist, or rather run into fog, and then they TP, and Flint's ulting them. Well, okay, we ult and we get a cancel on TP. So I think that's the thought process behind it.
Yeah.
Or potentially just as a little bit, because by the time you're channeling that, they can essentially run quite a far distance. I mean, I'm not sure the exact time. I think it's 3 or 4 seconds for the channel. But it is 1.7 seconds. Okay, so 1.7 second channel. They can travel quite a far distance. Maybe just a little bit of an incentive so that you can catch up to them a little bit. Might be another thought behind it. But again, it's essentially just kind of like gravy. It's not really like any reason to take the skill over another skill or anything like that. It's kind of useless, really.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just want to recap the game real quick. So, creep score. We're just going to do them all at once to kind of save some time. My creep score, 262 in 42 minutes. That's pretty good to me. It's not.
It's good.
It's not amazing. It could have been higher, but again, I think
It
it comes
always
down.
be higher.
Yeah, but I think well, I mean, I've seen some. You can see some Forsaken games where she'll get like 700 in an hour or something, and that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But so I think the reasoning it's not higher is because of the bad start, which again comes back to just the hero Flint. Really, not so much play. I mean, it's really hard to get last hits early on as Flint. And then also to the fact that, like you said, Flint just doesn't really have much farm potential when it comes to his abilities.
Yeah.
Unlike Draconis. Draconis has much more farm potential than Flint does.
Yeah.
So everybody else besides me at 262, everybody else is below where they should have been, especially Draconis, considering he was ahead of me at the start of the game.
I wouldn't say that Succubus and Thunderbringer were that far.
Oh, yeah,
lower.
you know what? I actually take that back. You're right, because I was thinking in terms of a carry. So I'll actually agree with you. I think Thunderbringer should have been higher because of the fact that he has Chain Lightning to farm quite easily, especially since he got a Ring of Sorcery. But Succubus, 125 for Succubus in 42 minutes. That's actually above where I would expect a Succubus to be. I would probably be happy with 80, 90 maybe on a Succubus at that point.
Yeah.
On supports, usually in an hour-long game, I'd be happy with somewhere between 100 and 150. I mean, it's a little bit different for Succubus since she's not really like a true support like the other ones are. Other ones being, for example, Nymphora, Demented Shaman, Andromeda, to an extent, things of that nature. But still, 125, 42 minutes, I'm happy with that. But so carry-wise, me, when you take into account me, Swiftblade, Deadwood, to an extent, I'm going to count him in this conversation, even though I don't necessarily consider him a carry. I consider him more of a solo mid ganker. But so Deadwood, Flux to an extent, but again, I wouldn't consider him a carry.
Solstice, Draconis, and Panda.
Yeah, Solstice, Draconis, and Panda. So everybody, with the exception of me, and debatably, maybe, for example, Flux, considering the way he was playing him, and maybe Pyromancer, considering he kind of played a support. Everybody else should have had much higher than that.
Draconis should have had much higher than that.
Draconis should have been 300, I would have thought.
Yeah,
maybe.
Easily, yeah.
He was on par at the beginning. What did he have? 60 in the first 5 minutes or something like that, or 10 minutes.
I just noticed Solstice 50 actions per minute.
Yeah, and I mean Swiftblade 65, 56 on Draconis. I mean, and there's actually a post on the forums about the correlation between APM and skill. I wouldn't say there's a direct relation to it, but it's certainly...
It's an indicator.
Yeah, I mean, just there are plenty of good players who have lower APM than on average, but...
wants to be above 100.
Yeah,
almost.
If you have less than 100, it's not that you're bad, just odds are you're not as good as the players who get above 100, just statistically speaking.
Up to a certain point. I mean, I have I often get something like 280 actions per minute, and that's totally unnecessary.
Yeah, for a MOBA game, that's unnecessary. If you're playing an RTS game or something, it's a different case. But so 200 plus, I would say, is unnecessary. Anywhere between 120 and 200, I think, is a good APM to sit around. And then you can pretty much tell everybody who says, "Oh, your APM's low," to shut the hell up. I mean, I've seen people at the end of games who will literally complain about how low people's APM, and really, if you're doing fine, I don't see any reason to argue about it. But I mean, it certainly does have some kind of relation. It's not direct, but I would say odds are if you have a higher APM, you're a better player to an extent.
Yeah.
But so CK wise, most people in the game pretty low, with the exception of me, and Draconis should have been higher.
Draconis should have had more denies as well, given how hard he was crushing his lane. He would have crushed him even harder.
Yeah, and this is a normal mode game, so the denies actually do affect how much experience they get. So it's actually kind of a big deal. I usually, about 20, 21. I usually sit somewhere between 10 and 15 for the most part, 10 and 20 maybe. Draconis should have had higher. I'm fine with Flux's denies throughout the game. The only thing is that he actually got most of those after the laning phase was over.
It's kind of pointless.
Yeah, it's a little bit odd. Number-wise, it's fine. Just, where he got them doesn't really make any sense. And same thing for Swiftblade. He got most of those after the laning phase was over. So, a little bit odd. But yeah, GPM-wise, I think my GPM is quite well, all considered. 472.
Yep. That's good.
When you consider the bad start, that's quite a good GPM to have. Usually when you see a carry finish 16 and 2, if it was a carry like Draconis, for example, they'd probably have 500 plus because of their ability to farm and the fact that they wouldn't be gimped by that bad start.
Yeah.
But, for Flint, I think, anything 400 plus for Flint is absolutely fine by me.
To be honest, it's 500 plus if you're going to go against people that are equally skilled as you. You're going to need 500 plus. But if you're the person that's doing the best in the entire game, 400 plus is gonna see you to late game and see you win easily.
Yeah. So other than me though, Succubus, totally fine with her GPM. That's actually great for support to have. Swiftblade, Deadwood, both too low. Thunderbringer, probably about
okay.
Thunderbringer's is fine. Especially considering he was playing as support, so it's totally fine. Flux, fine. I would like to see a little bit closer to 250, but it's not bad.
Yeah, they really didn't know what they were doing in that lane as far as who was getting the creep kills.
Yeah, they didn't get any. I don't understand. And it's not like they were both like spamming harass on us either. They just weren't doing anything really.
Yeah.
And then Solstice. So Solstice, he tapered off quite a bit, but he actually had a really good start when it came to creep score. He was ahead of me for the first, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it was. So he actually dropped off a while. I think as soon as he got
GPM's horrible.
Yeah, GPM's terrible for a Solstice. As soon as he got that shield breaker, I think he
I want to give MUP to Solstice, most useless player.
He did miss so many ultimates. It's kind of ridiculous.
Deadwood's close.
Though, his build... Well, we'll talk about builds for everybody in a second. So, Panda, CK too low, GPM too low for a carry like Panda. And his items make no sense, but again, we'll talk about that in a sec. Draconis, GPM, too low with all things considered. Again, like you were saying, if you're the highest at 311, because the game's really even and you guys keep going back and forth, it's one thing, but you had such a good start and then just let it all go. So it's not acceptable. 311's really low when you consider the fact of how good of a start you had.
Exactly.
And then Pyromancer, your GPM's just so low because you and Flux didn't touch any creeps in lane. Apparently they didn't want them, so I don't know what to tell you. Okay, so items. XPM's not really a huge indicator that we need to talk about, but so XPM pretty much kind of directly relates to GPM. Usually more GPM means more XPM because you're near creeps, near enemies, you're getting more kills in the system, blah, blah, blah. So you don't really need to talk about that. Item-wise, we'll start at the top and work our way down. Pyromancer, I don't like almost any of his items, really.
I think it's horrible.
Yeah.
His whole build is horrible. Ghost Marchers, no. Maybe if you're a high-tier player and you just prefer the mobility for survivability over the direct survivability, but he had no mana regen, so the Steam Boots would have helped him more with that, and would have helped him, with his mana management through boot switching and stuff.
So, and on top of that, he didn't have any stats from the boots, so he bought 2 Talismans of the Exile.
Yeah, and he didn't upgrade either of them into either a Grave Locket or a Ring of Sorcery, both of which are perfectly fine on a support pyro.
Oh, yeah. If he had gotten both of them, I would have been fine with those 2. But the fact that he got those 2 and then went for Spell Shards without doing anything with them makes no sense.
Yeah, Spell Shards, horrible item.
Yeah.
Just generally on everyone.
Well, yeah, I don't
Maybe
like
not
it.
Artesia.
I don't like it on anyone except for on some heroes where you have a really good start and you get Codex. If you get a Codex and then you go for Spell Shards next, obviously assuming you have abilities on top of that do magic damage, if you have a good start, I'm okay with it. I'm not ecstatic about it, but
it is viable. The only hero I can think that it's viable on without a Codex is Artesia. Artesia benefits quite well from
because of the ultimate with the double skill.
Yeah, the static mana regeneration and the fact that if she's got a position right, she's sitting there pumping out quite a lot of magic damage.
Oh yeah. I see it a lot on Dampier too. I don't like it on Dampier though.
I hate it on Dampier. I
people
absolutely
people
despise it.
people tend to get to the point where you either see a Dampier build like a normal carry, like attack damage and items like that, or they build him like a nuker, like a Thunderbringer or something along those lines. And I think, in my personal opinion, I prefer the attack damage kind of Dampier because it scales so much better into the late game.
Here's my take on spell shards. As you look at the item and read the stats and see what it does, it's not a bad item, but there is always something better to get. There is always something better to get. So I just would never get that item on any hero unless maybe, you know, for example, I'm totally stomping on some magic damage burst hero like say, yeah, like Pebbles or Parasite when I've already got like Codex Grimoire of Power and I'm still like one popping people. You might as well just, you know, keep doing that burst.
Yeah. So if
speaking,
if you're a nuker who has a really good start and you want to essentially prolong the ability to like one shot people, that is the only time I'm okay with the spell shards, unless you have like
still prefer to see Hellflower though.
Yeah. Hellflower would be so much better. But the only thing is Hellflower is about twice the cost. Of course, when you upgrade the spell shards to level 3, it's not that, but at level 1, it's about twice the cost. When you upgrade them to level 3, it's only like, I think 1,500 more, maybe a little less than that. So I don't like any of Pyromancer's items. They don't make any sense. What I would have liked to see, Steam Boots into either a Portal Key, if you're going to go that route, which it looks like he was kind of going the damagey route, so Portal Key would have been better. And then after a Portal Key, you can go, Sheep Stick or Hellflower or a number of other items, depending on what you want to do. Or you can go
the Blink Sheep or Blink Hellflower is just amazing on almost any hero in the game.
Well, and it's Blink Hellflower is even worse because it makes you take 20% more damage too. So if you get the Hellflower before he pops his load on you, it's ridiculous. But you have to be really fast on that because the Hellflower doesn't, it only silences, it doesn't like slow or anything like that. So if you're not quick, if you like miss your stun after that, it can really screw you up. So so if you're not going to go the damage route, if you want to go support, then maybe, I still think Steam Boots would have been better, but I'm okay with Striders if you want to go the support route, although I don't love them. And then after that, you could go, Tablet of Command, Storm Spirit, you could go Grave Locket, that's fine, Ring of Sorcery, that's fine, you could go a number of items out of there.
Only one person in that whole game got Mystic Vestments. Oh, Panda got Shamans, but... Yeah. That's another thing. Almost everyone should almost always get Mystic Vestments. I mean, you didn't because you were getting a good start and you weren't getting focused, especially not by any magic damage, really.
Yeah. The only thing I would say is they're again, you're right. Almost in every game you should get Mystic Vestments, but there are games. I think if they have 2 or less magic dealing heroes. And there's for example, Deadwood is not a magic dealing hero. The very vast majority of his damage is physical. So getting Mystic Vestments just for his Rotten Grasp, for example, makes no sense.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that.
So if there's 3 or more physical heroes like that, and Panda's actually one of the physical heroes as well. His damage is, I think, almost entirely physical, with the exception of Cannonball, and I think Flicker.
No, all of it is physical.
Oh, Cannonball does physical too?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, then even better. So heroes like that, I think it's okay if they have 3 or more physical heroes. I'm fine not getting Mystic Vestments.
Yeah.
Cannonball, physical damage. So all of his is physical. But yeah, that would be the only real example of a time if they have 2 or more, and 2 is kind of on the fence. I'm on the fence. Depends which 2. But 2 or more magic dealing heroes, then you need Mystic Vestments. Now, if they have 2 or maybe 3. Just Mystic Vestments, and then you don't build that into anything, and you eventually sell that. More than that, and depending on the hero, I'm okay with you getting Mystic Vestments and then going for a Shaman's Headdress or a Burial Idol, or maybe selling that and planning on to get a Shrunken Head, or it depends on the hero and the situation. And
I mean, if they've got heavy magic damage, I think that 4 out of 5 heroes should just stay with Vestments, and 1 hero should get a Barrier Idol, and that's going to cover you for all of the magic damage late game.
But yeah, so in this game, the only reason I didn't get Vestments is not because of the physical heroes on their team, because if you actually count, they have quite a bit of heroes that do quite a bit of magic damage. And actually, for the first 25, maybe 30 minutes, I would count Draconis as a magic hero, because the bulk of his damage is magic. It comes from all of his fire all over the place, not from his physical attacks. After 30 minutes, I would change him to a physical hero, because then it's from his Cataclysmic Assault, and his auto attacks just dominating. But But so before that, magic damage. So if you count, you got Pyro, you got Draconis for the first big chunk, you got Solstice, which I count as a magic damage hero because, and I'm actually not sure if his passive attack modifier thing does magic damage or not.
I think it's physical because it is physical. It works
physical.
on those creeps that are immune to magic.
Yeah, so it is physical, but the rest of his stuff is magic, with the exception of his Q, which is kind of like a buff for his attack. But his ultimate does an immense amount of damage, and that's all magic. So actually, if you'll note, in this game, Swiftblade was immune at one point, and he blasted the ult, and it did nothing, because it's all magic.
Yeah.
So I would count him as a magic hero, and Flux as well, although Flux's damage output is pretty limited without support. He has really good crowd control, really good. Like, one of the best heroes in the game for crowd control. It's just his damage is very limited.
Oh, on Flux as well, what a lot of people don't know is getting Frostwolf Skull is great because when you use his ult, it actually applies.
It procs on his little, like, pole, too.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. There's a couple of heroes like that. For those of you guys who don't know, there are a number of heroes where the attacks get changed, like the skills get changed based off of their ability or their items.
Attack modifier,
yeah. And I mean, I can make a list at some point if I need to, but no reason to go through it now. So let's keep going down the list with items. Draconis. I like the Nullstone, but then the Dawnbringer I'm against.
I would have preferred to see Shrunken Head and Savage Mace. And
yeah.
Savage
Mace is a
or a Lifesteal first and then Shrunken Head.
Savage Mace is just phenomenal on him. I love it because of that Cataclysmic Assault. It's amazing. And for anybody who doesn't play Draconis too much, his ultimate makes his attack speed. It adds 300 or whatever it is for 8 seconds.
Yeah. Also hits every hero in range, which means that it's gonna I think the procs propagate to the split. But
I'm not sure if
100%.
they do. But is it every hero? I thought it was 3 heroes.
3 heroes. Yeah, it sprays out in 3 things.
Yeah, 3 attacks.
Like FA's thing. I think it procs on the secondary attacks, but I'm not 100% on that.
I'd have to check on that too. But so other than that, the Nullstone I'm fine with, although again, same thing as you mentioned earlier, the order of your items that you got for the Nullstone makes no sense. Sustainer, always first before Blessed Orb.
To be honest, the way that he played, I disagree with the Nullstone because he didn't farm, and it's a farming item as well as obviously the survivability in team fights, but he didn't go and farm the creep camps and use his mana to go and farm those camps, and it's there for farming and not getting ganked while you're farming as easily.
Well, so okay, since you're saying that, considering the way he played, what would you have preferred to see?
I'd prefer to have seen straight up Frostburn into Geometer's Bane and or a Firebrand Lifesteal and then Geometer's Bane and.
Well, you see, what I would have liked on him, instead of some item at some point before the end of the game, I would have liked to see a Wingbow on him because I didn't pick up a Savage Mace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So at some point near the end of the game, it's usually my 5th item, give or take, on Flint.
But then again, if you had built a Wingbow, you would have probably built a Savage Mace instead of upgrading Frostwolf Skull.
But at the point where he's the Wingbow is an expensive item, and it only has 2 pieces. Both items in the pieces are very expensive themselves. So by the time he has even a piece, and I notice that he's building a Wingbow, it's still going to be a long time before I can get that Savage Mace because of how expensive it is.
Actually, it's 3 pieces. It's got the Steam Staff.
Oh yeah, you're right. Sorry. I thought makes sense. Yep, you're right. So he could have gotten a Steam Staff, but that wouldn't be an indicator of a Wingbow. It could be a number of things.
Yeah, if you got Steam Staff and the Dancing Blade, those 2 items first, you probably would have assumed Genjuro rather than Wingbow.
Well, you know what? Actually, no. I would have assumed.
Well, yeah, because he didn't get the Shroud.
Yeah, because he would have completed the Shroud first if you're going Wingbow or Genjuros. But yeah, but either way, even if I had seen those, that's literally 4/5 of the item's cost almost, and then he would have almost had a Wingbow completed, and I would have been just starting my Savage Mace at that point probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I would have liked to see that at some point, but it's fine that he didn't get it because for the points you've mentioned, it's easily counterable by a Savage Mace, and once you notice it. But yeah.
Panda's items, just horrible.
What I would have liked on Panda is first item, either a Shrunken Head or a Nullstone. But the only thing is that neither of those will will stop me, Flint's passive, the shells from stopping his ultimate. So that's the only thing.
Yeah, the other thing is you've got both Succubus and Deadwood's ult is physical and superior magic.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But
So the Nullstone would
the
have been
Nullstone.
good, especially for farming as well. But the Rune Cleaver is a horrible pickup, especially how late he got it.
Yeah, he got it like 35 or something like that.
Yeah,
If for anybody who gets a Rune Cleaver, if you don't get it by, I'd say 25 at the absolute latest, but hopefully somewhere between 20 to 22 is like really like the deadline I'd like. Then don't get it. Change items and get a
I
different
mean,
item.
our carry player will get it at 13 minutes almost every game.
Yeah, pretty much 13, 15 is even considered like a slow one, really. Like 15 is fine. It's not by any means, bad, but
If
it's
it's
just not
later than 20, there's just don't bother.
Yeah, if you're getting it past like 20, 22 would be like my real, like what I would really like to see, the absolute minimum. 22 and then after that, if you've got like your sustainer and you have enough to get your first I'm not sure the name of the 1200 item, but that first 1200 item, then if you're at like 22 minutes, don't go for the Rune Cleaver. Change it up to a Nullstone probably. I mean, if they have literally no single targets, then I guess
Nullstone's always good though, because people get Hellflowers and Sheepsticks late game.
Yeah, that's true.
You're always mitigating something.
Yeah.
Nullstone, I don't think is ever a bad item on any hero. It's just you prefer to get other items, depending on the game.
Cases. Yeah. But so Panda, the only item I like on you is the boots. I like those boots. Congrats on the boots. And as he was mentioning, Mystic Vestments. I don't actually like the completed Shaman's Headdress, but Mystic Vestments, nice on that. But yeah, the Iron Shield doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. I mean, I guess because you were in a 2 vs 1, but still. And then Solstice. Solstice's items...
they're not bad, they're just not enough of them and way too late.
Yeah, so 2 things. First of all, again, with the Blessed Orb thing, whatever you're going to build that into, there's almost always another part of it that's better than the Blessed Orb.
Yeah.
I can't think of one at the moment that isn't, but there may be...
I mean, Blessed Orb is one of the worst items in the game for stats versus price.
Yeah.
It's a really price inefficient item. It's 10 strength, 10 agility, 10 in.
Yeah.
For 2100 gold. You get almost the same from a charged Grave Blocker, which is 700 gold.
Yeah, or you get 2 of the little 600 items for each class, and you have 10 of your main stat, and then 6 of your others of the side stats, pretty much. And that would be 1200 maybe if you got 2 of them. So you know what I mean? What do they add? Yeah, so you'd have actually 12 of your main stat, whatever it is, and 6 of the side stat. And actually, if you were an intelligence hero, for example, it would only be 890, whatever. I can't do math, but it would be, just about, 900 gold or something. So I mean, there are better items than that. But obviously, the little 600 items don't build into something bigger for the most part. Some of them do, like the Talisman of the Exile. But they don't really build into a core item that, you would get on Solstice.
That's something we keep getting sidetracked here, but the Strength Bracer, I think the S2 need to change that so that it builds into something useful for Strength heroes, because it only builds into Astrolabe.
What they should do is they should have it build into a tank item, and my personal preference would be if it built into a barbed armor. That would be great. Or, wait, is it called barbed armor in HoN?
Yes.
Yeah, barbed armor in HoN. If it builds into a barbed armor or a demonic breastplate, either of which, I would love to see them do that.
It would make more sense.
There you go, S2. If you're watching this, there's your suggestion. It would make a lot more sense. It would make the item so much more valuable and viable, because at the moment you buy it, and especially the Fortified Bracer, because it's the most expensive of the 3. But it's 600 gold, 610 I think, or something.
Yeah, 610.
And you buy it, and then you can't do anything with it. It doesn't build anything.
Unless you're building an Astro.
Yeah, but on any hero...
that's not on Strength heroes.
Yeah,
so.
On any hero that would get the Fortified Bracer, you're not going to want that, so... I mean, it doesn't make any sense. So fix that, S2. That should be your next thing. Like, that's with the whole HoN,
S2.
The whole HoN 3.0 thing. They spent so much time on graphics and all that. That should fix that before you do all that.
It is the most important thing in the game to fix Fortified Bracer.
It really is. Okay, so back to items real quick before we go too far into this video. All right, so Solstice. I'm fine with a Shield Breaker. I wouldn't have liked to see it for your first item. I would have liked to see either a Shrunken Head or sometimes, and in this case particular because you have a Panda, I'm actually okay with getting an Abyssal Skull. The guide recommends that you get it as like your first item.
Or an Insanitarius.
Yeah, or an Insanitarius. But there's a number of games where an Abyssal Skull is a terrible item to get because you don't have enough melee to make it worth. In this game, particularly because of the Panda, I'm fine with it, because Panda, for those of you who don't know, Panda does a number, his skills all scale, not all, but, a lot of them scale off of his auto attack damage. So, if he has 15% more auto attack, he'll do more damage for his skills as well.
So base damage applied to other people? I think it does.
Yeah, no, it applies to other melee heroes.
Yeah.
So that's why Panda. See, in some games,
Not just the lifesteal.
Yeah, if you have too many ranged, it doesn't make any sense. So, but the lifesteal as well as the lifesteal applies to ranged and melee. The base damage increase only applies to melee. So that's something to note for those of you who are Solstice players and you're reading the guide and just picking up the items that it tells you to do. But yeah, other than that, you didn't get any more items, so you should have had way more items, especially considering you were ahead of me in farm for a very long period. And then you didn't really, you did die a lot, but you shouldn't have died a lot based on how you were doing early game. So
summary: items aren't bad. You needed more quickly.
Yeah, they were just not even close to fast enough. You got that Blessed Orb at 35 minutes or something. Way too late to be getting your next item. I don't have any comments on Flux's items. I actually love his items.
Yeah, Flux item build is good. Presumably that was going to be a Frostwolf skull next. Yeah. That's perfect items for Flux. Maybe after that you're going to get Frostfield or a Barbed Armor or something like that.
Yep. The only thing I would say is that if you're playing more of a supporty Flux, which in this case he kind of was, you mostly doing crowd control and not really kind of damaging or anything like that, I'm actually okay seeing a Grave Locket on him too.
Yeah.
But that would be the only case. You can also play Flux as an initiator, or you can play him as a damage dealer. He's just not as good as other heroes.
Well, is Grave Locket ever bad on anyone though?
There's really very few intelligence heroes that Grave Locket's bad on, and even some non-intelligence heroes that Grave Locket's bad on. Yeah. The only ones that come to mind really are I don't like Grave Locket on Torturer, only because, not because the stats or the what you're getting for the cost is bad, but just because other items on Torturer are so much more crucial to get. The earlier you can get them, the so much better you can be. For your
team. A tablet or a nullstone or
nullstone in particular, and it gives you regen and stats and all that stuff too. Obviously for a more expensive cost, but things like that, just items in general. There's a couple heroes where key items, if you don't get them at a certain point in the game, you're gonna be crap all game.
Yeah.
And I actually think Torture is one of them. If you don't get items, she has such a low mana pool to begin with.
Grave Locket's okay on support Torturer.
Yeah, pretty much. Thunderbringer, your items are actually totally fine. I
really like them.
Really?
Yeah, I really do like all of his items.
The only thing is I would have liked to see, if you're going to get Portal Key and Tablet of Command, I'm not against that, but I would have liked to see the Tablet of Command first.
Yeah.
Especially since, you have a lot of assists. You were doing a fair amount of damage, I imagine, but it wasn't enough that you were doing so good that the Portal Key really takes priority over supporting your team.
I imagine that probably what happened is he had something 800 gold pulled up and he thought, I'm going to get the Portal Key first because I'll be able to afford it before the next time I die.
Yeah. And it ended up working out, but it's just one of those little things that you could potentially improve upon. My items, we already talked about that a lot. Succubus's items. So again, with the Sacrificial Stone, I'm not against it. I would have liked something else. For example, a Portal Key.
PK.
Yeah. Portal Key on Succubus is ridiculously overpowered. If you can catch somebody by himself, especially,
or even two, you can mez one and ult the other.
Especially if you have a little bit of a level advantage, which if you look, she is the second highest level in the game. She had plenty of level advantage. Not necessarily early, but that's kind of where you want it. But she did, do quite well level-wise. So, you could have done so much better with a Portal Key, I think. You can just, if you find one or even two people by themselves without support around, you get a free kill, essentially, on the squishier one, whoever that may be.
So price... Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
The only example I could think of maybe you wouldn't is if you caught Solstice and Panda. Maybe you wouldn't be able to kill either one of them, but you would definitely come really close if you couldn't. So,
yeah, for the price that she spent on the Sackstone and the Staff, she could have got a PK, a Tablet, and almost a Storm Spirit as well, and that would have been 3 very much more useful items.
Yeah, and then the next item that I would love to see on a Succubus, you're already super crowd controlling. Another, Storm Spirit, Sheepstick, or Tablet of Command, as you meant, is kind of anti-crowd control, but it works for enemies too. It's just usually not used on enemies because they're facing the other direction usually. But there are a number of times where like you can catch a range, like if you're in Viz, you can catch a range hero like farming, and you can push him
Push them
forward.
out of position, yeah.
Yeah, you can push him into your team, and then if you get the right follow up, you can get some kills. So it depends, but usually it's more of a defensive item. Other than the staff and the sackstone, the rest of it's fine. I mean, your boots. I actually personally I like Ghost Marchers because the mobility.
I like them better as well. Unless you're getting a portal key, ironically.
Yeah, but Steam boots aren't bad. I guess you can still make it work.
Steams and Ghosts on almost every hero is personal preference.
Yeah, really. And it comes down to, like, for example, your team, how much they can support you and stuff like that too.
Yeah.
But I don't want to get into a huge conversation about that because that could be a long conversation.
Yeah.
Deadwood. So I like that he changed his mind on or I'm assuming he changed his mind on the portal key into a Soul's Bulwark. If he didn't do that, then I hate you, Deadwood. But you did get a Soul's Bulwark, so it worked out. I actually wasn't checking if he was keeping it on negative or positive.
Presumably it would have been on negative.
Yeah, if it was on positive, then don't do that. When you have a Flint Beastwood who's dominating the game this bad, you need to keep it on negative.
Switch it to positive, someone's getting focused by Panda.
Yeah. But in general, it should be on negative as default and then change to positive if need be, because you can't, unlike with Steam Boots you can cycle through as much as you want. There's no cooldown. But with the Soul's Bulwark, it has a 10-second or 7-second cooldown or something along those lines. Once you change it, it's like that for a certain period of time, and you can't fix it. So it should be negative innately, and then you should change it to positive when need be. And actually, that applies to the vast majority of games. It should be, I mean, unless you're losing and you're behind and things of that nature, it should be on negative for the most part, and you just need to change it to positive when you're getting initiated on or things of that nature. The helm, I hope, we'll see. What I would have hoped, that would be my first thought. But what I would have hoped it would have been is I would have hoped he would have, and obviously it doesn't make sense based on the way he bought the order of the items, but I would have liked if that had been a shaman's headdress instead. But then he would have had to get the mystic vestments first.
Yeah, I to be honest, I don't know why he was building there. I mean, Insanitarius is fine on Deadwood if you get it early, but that was like 40 minutes in. And he's not going to get a lifesteal. I hope he's not going to get a lifesteal.
I mean, you never know with this guy.
Yeah. Green and brown, very low MMR. I mean, you can forgive them for being bad.
I will say one thing that they changed up, which I'm not sure how I feel about it. I'm not sure if they're doing this on purpose or not, but now the color isn't based on your MMR. It's just random, like the order they put you in the color now.
I don't think it makes any difference. I think people are going to flame the lowest MMR regardless of what color they are.
That's true, but
it just means they're going to have to press F6 to see that.
Yeah, well, the only thing now, though, is that when people watch replays or something, they won't know like who was the lowest MMR in the game, like when the game was played. So that's something, I guess, that does change a little bit, but I'm not sure if it's on purpose or not.
I think it's just to stop people discriminating based on color. It's a racism.
I also think it's a little bit odd that brown is the lowest color on the Hellborn team. It's a little bit. I'm not sure if they planned that on purpose, and it's always the worst player who's brown, but. That could be considered a little bit racist too.
I think it's more likely that it's to do with brown being the color of shit.
Yeah, that's a good point too. The darker the colors are always on bottom for the Hellborn team. It's a little bit different for Legion. They're all pretty bright colors, but.
I think that about covers everything, doesn't it?
Yeah, I just want to talk about Swiftblade's items real quick. So Swiftblade, you got the Ring of the Teacher. I'm not upset with the Ring of the Teacher. I would have preferred if Succubus got that rather than you, but. In a solo queue game, you can't always depend on your allies playing correctly, so I understand that. Not that you were playing correctly by any means, but so I understand that. Your boots are fine. I don't like starting boots first in a long lane. If you're going to play a short lane and be really aggressive, if you had gone Succubus, Swiftblade in the short lane, you could be really aggressive with that combo, and I'm fine with that.
Yeah, you could kill Pyro easy.
Yeah, and even Flux can't really do much to stop you. Like,
his push is physical, so actually he can.
Yeah, but it's
it's boots, I guess.
Yeah, so the boots plus the slow from his push, I don't think would proc because he'd be magic immune. I'm not 100% sure on that, so I could be mistaken. But
the slow for his Q wouldn't work. His W would be able to push him back. It might let him survive. But obviously, Flux is pretty tanky. He got 2 strength claws first, so that gives him like 750 starting HP.
Yeah, but so the Ring of the Teacher, I would like to see that on a support
Fine.
as opposed to you. It's still 500 gold that you could have been working towards your next item.
Yeah.
So
Ring of Teacher is never a bad item.
yeah,
but
it's not bad. I just
better on other heroes.
yeah, because the aura still counts for you even if your allies get it. So that's the key thing with that. And I love seeing that on heroes that do solo lanes, like suicide lanes, not solo mids, but suicide lanes. I love seeing Ring of the Teacher on like any suicide hero pretty much.
Suicide and solo short. In fact, to be honest, even if you're dual laning, one person in both the long and short lane should. In any game, both long and short lane, one player, even if it is only one player in that lane, should always have a Ring of the Teacher, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's a very strong game item.
There are very rare cases where maybe a Ring of the Teacher wouldn't be a good item or the best item to get, but it's for the most part Ring of the Teacher is pretty awesome. I just again would have liked to seen it on Succubus as opposed to you.
Yeah, I agree.
Frostburn, I'm not against the Frostburn. I think it's actually fine when you take into account the fact that the slow actually procs on your spin as it actually does attacks. I think it's past level 3 or maybe it's only at level 4, but
Frostburn's fine. You already had that attack modifier on your team. I prefer to see a Shield Breaker and a Genjuro on Swiftblade, but there's nothing wrong with Frostburn.
Well, yeah, I mean, Shieldbreaker Genjuro would have been fine. The only thing is that
he wouldn't have farmed that though.
Yeah, he wouldn't have come even close to farming that.
Yeah.
I mean, he only had 232 GPM. I mean, in the lane, he had about as low CK as the people against my team, like the people I was going against in my lane. So that really wouldn't have worked. And then the other thing I want to come across is that, and I'm going to assume this based on the fact that he's brown and this is a 1500 game and that guy was like 1300 MMR. That sustainer probably would have been built into a rune cleaver. I'm just making that assumption based on the hero
and he's reading the default item build and
yeah, that's what it looked like to me too, is that he was reading default items. So no, he got that way too late for a rune cleaver, way too late. I'm not against rune cleaver on Swiftblade actually. I don't mind it. It's just that Swiftblade I don't think should be kind of passive farming all game. I think he should be more active.
I prefer the Nullstone on him because his spin's enough of a farming tool.
Yeah, and on top of that, based on his just skills in general, the hero shouldn't be AFK farming all game. He should be helping in not necessarily team fights, but ganks definitely every now and then. Whenever the ultimate's off cooldown, if you can catch an enemy by himself, as long as you're doing okay level wise.
I saw a competitive game. I can't remember who it was playing. I think it might have been Slicks built. It went for a Helm of Black Legion portal key on Swiftblade and it worked out quite well.
So that's one of those cases where I would have to see the game because that seems like a very odd group of items to get on Swiftblade. Not so much the portal key. The portal key against and again I think it's because he was against really high tier players who it's going to be really hard to catch them out of position just by themselves where you can just ult on them.
I wouldn't get it in a standard pub game.
Yeah, that seems odd. The Helm is a little bit odd only because I don't think he needs the survivability because of his spin. I mean, again, if you're going against like a physical team, maybe, but
you can also port just a random little point about spin, just like Shrunken Head. You can use a TP while you're spinning. Same with actually Shroud or Genjuro. If you do TP first and then Shroud, or use the activate Genjuro, it doesn't cancel your TP, but it does make you invis, so you can TP while invis.
Actually, I was unaware about that one. You can, if you use the Shroud first and then TP, does it work or no?
No, because obviously the TP is going to
TP will cancel, so you have to TP and then Shroud.
Yeah, but the Shroud does not cancel the channeling.
But for those of you who can't, or who maybe just don't think it through as much as we would, keep in mind there are a number of physical stuns that heroes have that can cancel them, and actually we have so many in this game between Panda, myself as Flint, and Deadwood. Deadwood's ultimate mini stuns. Panda, every one of his skills, with the exception of Cannon. Oh no, Cannonball would do it too.
Deadwood's ult is a 1.5 second stun. It's not mini stun.
Oh, sorry. His ult's actually a stun. You're right. My mistake. But Flint has that mini stun, which, granted, it's a little bit up to chance whether or not it'll proc. But I mean, as soon as my attack speed starts building up, it's literally almost unlikely that I would not get a proc before the 4 seconds or 3 seconds it takes to. I
saw a funny thing on top 5 plays where Flint attacks a hack and he gets 7 mini stun procs in a row and stops her from blinking and kills her.
In how early of the game was it? Early or late?
I don't know. He's like mid game. He's like level 15 or something. It's just ridiculously lucky.
It's one of those, yeah, I'll tell you what, whenever I play against a Flint or like a hero that has a proc like that, and they get the proc over and over and over and over again, it's just the most infuriating thing ever.
It seems to me whenever I play Suicide Lane and they have a jungling Wild Soul, they will get a first hit entangle every time. Like every single
Oh
fucking
yeah, Wild
time.
Soul's another one. I never get those procs whenever I play the heroes, but whenever anybody else does it, they get the luckiest crap in the world.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. But yeah. So again, his items, Nullstone would have been fine, but assuming just based off of how he was playing and all that, I'm guessing that would have been a Rune Cleaver, and that's just stupid. That's pretty much all there is to cover. Sorry, the whole the summary thing kind of got a little bit long there. We got a little bit off topic, but that's
We
okay.
talked
I think
about
it was,
a lot, to be fair. I think it's good just like generally, not even so much focusing on that game, but just the game in general and item builds and skill builds and etc.
Yeah. I think and also feel free to just like you don't have to watch the summary. You can just let it go in the background while you're doing your homework or whatever. So, I mean, it's not that big of a deal. The gameplay stuff you kind of have to watch to get some of the points, but for this, feel free. I mean, I'm totally fine with it going on a little bit long like this. So. That's all there is to really cover, I think. I don't think we missed anything major. Not that I can think of.
No.
No. Yeah, so, yeah, that's pretty much it. Okay, so, thank you for watching, guys. Thank you, Taddy Jangles, for joining me today.
No problem.
He'll probably be joining me for, if not everyone in the future, the majority of them, I would think, assuming, times and stuff works out, but they should work out fine. So... get used to it, I guess, unless for some reason there is a big hate on Taddy Jangles and nobody likes it.
No one likes the English accent.
I can't imagine why, but I guess if we're all going to be prejudiced against English accents, then fine, it's not that big of a deal. But for future references, expect to see him in these. Other than that, feel free to keep submitting replays. For those of you who would like to, feel free. I do pretty much 3 to 5 videos a week, so 3 to 5 replay analysis for the most part. Every now and then I'll do a queuing up whenever I am out of replays or just in the mood to play. But other than that, replay analysis. So thank you for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you learned something. And other than that, anything else you want to mention, Taddy, before you go?
Not really. I think we've very much in-depth covered everything that we could possibly cover about this game and more. So.
Alrighty then. Thank you for watching, guys. And again, I hope you enjoyed it and hope you learned something. And I will talk to you guys later. GG, well played, guys. Elfis out.